Yeah.
So, is it, okay. We are reconvening to open session and we have one reportable item for item 1, which is conference with the labor negotiator. Pursuant to California Government Code Section 54957.6. And basically the report out is that the board has tentatively approved a side letter with IAFF Local 2400 District 10. The board directed that the proposed side letter be placed on the district's website for review until the board considers approval of the side letter at its next regular meeting scheduled for July 21st, 2026. And with that, we'll adjourn closed session and convene at the open session at 7:19 of the Menlo Park Fire Protection District Board of Directors on June 16th, 2026. Roll call, please.
Director Bernstein. Absent.
Yeah, he's absent tonight.
And Director Bloom.
Here.
Director Jones.
Here.
Director Solano.
Here.
And President Crowley.
Present, so we have a quorum and we'll go to the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I will open up public comment now for items not on the agenda. I don't see anyone in here unless someone here wants to make a public comment. Anyone out in the Zoom land?
And we have no hands raised online.
Okay, so I'll close public comment and we'll go to item 1, which is for the report of the fire chief. Chief.
Thank you, Director Crawley, members of the board, our staff that's here in the audience, and anyone online. Happy to share with you my June fire chief's report. First is a facilities update. Just wanted to share there's very little that's changed related to Fire Station 1 and the update, except for the ever-changing numbers in terms of finances, generally because our CIP fund keeps improving. And then the other item is that plan is currently being revised to address some of the comments that the city of Menlo Park gave feedback. On to recruitments and promotions. First of all, really great news on our firefighter recruitment. Really successful process. Chief Boyle and I interviewed the top 13 candidates that were passed on to us by our interview panels. We have made 4 offers of employment. And we also have 3 alternates that are going to go through the backgrounds. Interesting thing, all of our 4 candidates that we made offers to are all local in that they are from Hayward, Aptos, and 2 that are current residents of East Palo Alto. 2 of them either are or have been cadets. One was a reserve and is a cadet in Redwood City, and one is a ex-Coast Guard guy that worked for Santa Clara County Fire Department. So really quality, and like I said, same thing with the alternates. The group was really great. Looking forward to you meeting them and seeing them. Really nice for us to have some young folks that have grown up in our community and get to end up serving their community. So super excited for that. On the clerk recruitment, I sent an email to you all. If you didn't read it or see it, we have made an offer and it was accepted by our sole internal candidate, Shin Young Oh, who has previously been the admin assistant to our executive staff. She is great, has already served in some capacities as a backup clerk, and experience with some PRA stuff and with Granicus, and hard worker, smart, and what a great attitude. So looking forward to having her as soon as she returns from maternity leave at end of July. And thank you, Director Crawley, for helping us again in the interview process. So, looking forward to having Shin join us here at our August committee meetings and the board meeting. Fire prevention is in the process of hiring a fire prevention officer 1/2. They had, believe it or not, somewhere around 80 applications for the position. Yeah, a lot of the folks weren't really qualified for the position, so they screened it down. And I believe did have also 13 or 14 in-person interviews. 2 people have moved forward for selection interviews with Chief Schleiss and Chief Coyle, so looking forward to adding a new quality member to our fire prevention staff. Other updates on our community engagement unit, some things going on. Our CERT folks participated in a mass casualty incident exercise. Heather and Amandeep made presentations to the Belhaven, as far as with the Belhaven Community Campus Evacuation Drill, supported that. Monthly CPR, Red Cross Ready and Stop Bleed classes like we always do. Also a Red Cross Ready emergency preparedness presentation in English and in Spanish in East Palo Alto. Great. Then we also had some youth and school visits, one with Los Lomitas Elementary School. One was with Engine 3, was a visit for a child who had recently completed leukemia treatments. Really nice outreach there. Engine 1 made a visit to the Whole Kid Academy, and we participated in the La Entrada School Career Fair, and Station 6, their museum open house. Some other things going on, just some notes related to our fire response analysis report. I looked through it, nothing is significant in there. I will say we did change the title on the one page that Director Jones had questions about, where it was that one chart that was showing response times when it was showing travel time. Sorry, it was showing actual numbers of incidents we responded to by hour of the day. So we changed the title. So it makes sense. On the FEMA funding front, I put that in there because I had mentioned in the past that about our local congressman, Kevin Mullen, supporting some additional funds in Washington, D.C. We also received word from the congressman's office just last week that the additional funding for the next fiscal year is going up by another $4 million for the task force switching program. So we're getting really good support for the program out of Washington, D.C.
For
I
the
think
same
they're-
thing.
What's that?
For the same things, right? This would be administrative purple.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're still waiting to see if there's any kind of stipulations on how the funding is going to be spent, but we're hoping it's just going to be for us and our general supporter programs. That's good news. Chief Wordinger sponsored last week our annual Task Force 3 meetings. The 2 I attended were with our point of contacts and also with local fire chiefs. Always good to see the familiar faces that help us support the team, and sharing just the messages that, with a large team like that, it takes a village, for the 17 agencies that all help us. Retirees lunch is a quarterly thing at Harry's Hofbrau. Met with them 3 weeks ago. Always good to see some faces of old retired family members that are still excited to see us. Just an update quickly on, I want to give you some feedback on the DFR program. We'll say, since its inception, Tom has given me a lot of data, but I'll just hit on some of the high points. 551 operational flights or response flights since inception. I have a post-incident review from the fire that's actually reported on here down on Lincoln Street. This is from Chief Stahl. On these PIRs, they list out the operational strengths. The number 1 and 2 operational strengths were these. DFR 2, that's 2 is designates the station victim. So the DFR out of station 2 identified and rapidly communicated location of victim to the incident commander for immediate extrication, treatment, and transport. DFR 2 also monitored command traffic and copied IC report to zoom out. So he could be shown exposure to structures. So he could show the exposure structure to the engine 1 officer to provide exact intent. I will also share separately that I reviewed the footage and the information that Tom was able to share before our resources were on scene. In fact, Tom was overhead before PD even showed up. I could see the officer from East Palo Alto come into the backyard and somebody pointed to the side of the house where the burn victim was. So really helpful for us in locating the burn victim. Tom's now been doing this for a while, so he could share the information with Chief Stahl as he was responding as to what side of the building structure was on, what side of the building the victim was on, and also some of the challenges that we had with exposures to neighboring buildings. Really, really helpful, especially when you have all that smoke and it's in the backyard, to be able to share that information via live streaming to the incident commander. So it continues to be a really valuable, good program. So thank you, Tom, for pretty much almost always being available. So, lots of value for us. Just some follow-up things from our meeting last month. There was a question about whether we charge false alarm fees. That came up out of an Atherton conversation. So I had a conversation with Gage. We don't currently charge them. We could, though that's not something we're recommending that we do, but just as an informational thing, in case anyone ever asks. Also some follow-up related to the conversation about our auto aid with Palo Alto. Two things I want to follow up on. One was back at the county police meeting last week and just asked all the county chiefs that were there their thoughts on us opening up an automatic aid agreement with the city of Palo Alto, and that historically we had heard some rumors that maybe that the old group hadn't been in favor of it, and there was not a person in the room that was not. So, not an issue there with that. And then just on the status of that, Chief McDonald and Chief Coyle had a meeting with what's Tribex name? Central Square. They're a CAD vendor and supplier. They have a program that actually can connect our CADs. When I say that, PST with Palo Alto's CAD that their PD has. We are having some conversations. Sounds like it could be a good solution to our technological challenges. There's costs associated with it on our side, and we may share this with Woodside, who also has this. But on the San Mateo County side, we would have a one-time charge from Central Square of $57,000 for startup costs, and then $29,000 a year in ongoing costs. And we'll try and work with Woodside on what a fair, sharing of that. Yeah, probably based on volume. The question that's still up in the air is whether or not Palo Alto on their side can find the funding to support that. So the Palo Alto chief is still working internally to see if they can support that. Though we're both sides are mutually interested in trying to find it. We'll get back to you on that.
And you also just talking to the policy.
Yes. Very involved. They've been part of the conversations since the very beginning.
I mean,
Yeah.
since their last conference,
Sure.
divides, that's.
We all have mutual interest in responding to each other's calls. So again, we're optimistic in creating a solution for that and then figuring out how to start that. We have a list of the outstanding staff reports, and then again, the one significant incident that we had was in the 100 block of Lincoln Street in East Palo Alto on June 9th. This was a shed in the backyard that had been converted into a living space. And though the cause isn't specifically known, there were some older extension cords going in there, and so the shed was pretty much destroyed. So hard to determine the cause. But yeah, it had been heating element, it had been hot plate, cooking hard. That's all just speculation.
So that's a building whole.
That I'm gonna guess it likely was based on the extension cords powering it.
Okay.
Though I don't know for sure. Yes, but that is an assumption. That's fairly an assumption based on Yes, power supply.
Hotly.
Director Corrali had asked me when we were chatting about it, it seems like East Palo Alto is getting more fires than normal. So Chief McDonald just did a quick search before our meeting. Structure fires in East Palo Alto in all of 2025, 7. Structure fires year to date in East Palo Alto, 7. So
That's a
it's
lot.
on track to double it, assuming
Yeah.
we can still do it. So we have seen an uptick.
And that's
Not sure
mainly
the reason why.
residential. Well, that, yes, that's mainly residential, right?
That's just the reality.
Chief,
Yes.
I couldn't find the report that shows the different incidents.
Was that the heading I was talking about?
I think it was that, it is a sheet where it showed each city, the various incidents that have been, whereas it's not showing up in my paper. But
It's on the top of page 7 of the added analysis report. So, yeah.
Oh, okay, there you go. My thought is that in terms of, does this report get out to the city's managers and?
They haven't seen it, but I can share it.
Because I think, the reason I'm saying that, I think it might be helpful for them because, the city have to try to figure out how to educate its residents on various, enlighten them on different things that goes on. So it just seemed to me this might be, and, I'm not saying to do it, but it just seemed to me that it might be a good enlightenment that they can pass on to their residents somehow in their newsletter. The city of East Palo Alto have a newsletter they put out every month, and email wise, so.
I'm digging. That was the end of my report.
Was the large fire in Redwood City, the apartment building that had a lot of our engines, was that a Redwood City fire? We were just mutual aid on it?
Yes.
When it was in the news and everything?
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I just have one question. Are we talking about the CAD system involving Visitor and tablet?
We are, I don't know, on our side, PSE uses First Term. On the Palo Alto side, they use a different CAD system, I'm not sure what it is.
I forget the name of it.
Yeah, and we're actually having conversations with a third CAD vendor that has created some kind of connectivity between other CAD systems. So I don't know that First Term has the same solution that Cornerstone has. Cornerstone has a solution.
Thank you.
No, I'm good.
Okay, thank you, Chief. So then we'll go to item 2, which is the public hearing. And this is for the public hearing for the fiscal year 26-27 district budget and the full-time equivalent staffing levels. So, right now, since it's a public hearing, I'll open up the public hearing and take public comment if there's any. There's no one in here. Is there anyone out there?
President Crowley, no, we have no hands raised online.
Thank you. Okay, then I'll close the public hearing and we'll go to item 3, which is to adopt by resolution the district's fiscal year 26-27 final budget and full-time equivalent staffing. Ryan, you wanna put this on? This is a really good report.
Good evening, everyone. So for this report, this is the final budget. So just for everyone's information, this was also presented in finance committee for one final look before presented to the board for adoption. And I'm happy to say that there were no changes with the preliminary budget that was approved by the board in the last meeting. So with that, happy to answer any additional questions.
Any questions? Robin? Yes. Yeah.
Good enough.
I just want to say thank you for this report. I read the last one when I was on the plane last month, and it was equally good as this one, so thank you. So is there a motion to adopt the district's fiscal year 26-27 final budget and FTE staffing levels?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved by Director Solano and seconded by, moved by Director Jones, seconded by Director Solano. Want to do a roll call, please?
For Director Bloom,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Solano,
Aye.
and President Crowley.
Aye.
Thank you, motion carried.
Yep, thank you. Okay, the consent calendar. Would anyone like to remove any other than consent? Okay, if not,
I look at the motion for the three items for the.
okay, there's been a motion to approve the consent calendar by Director Solano. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, seconded by Director Bloom.
Sure.
Okay, make a note that Director Bernstein came in at 7:39. So, please roll call for the consent calendar's approval.
Director Bloom,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Solano,
Aye.
President Crowley,
Aye.
and Director Bernstein, would you like to vote on the item?
I'll vote aye also.
It's the
Okay,
consent
great.
calendar.
Yeah,
Motion
Okay,
carries unanimously. Mhm.
thank you. And going on to item 8 of the regular agenda. The first, item 8 is approve a resolution authorizing the fire chief to execute a 3-year contract with Scott Inc. for the cleaning, inspection, and repair of personal protective equipment in an amount not to exceed $400,000. So I don't know, who wants to, is Aaron
I'll
or?
take it, I'll take it, and this was reviewed by the finance committee, and they gave us some feedback too, as far as making some additions to it, so. Just to address the two, or really the request from the finance committee. First of all, just for everybody's information, we're asking for the board to approve a 3-year contract, 2 options to extend it an additional year. This is with Scott's PPE. They've been a long time vendor servicing our turnout for cleaning, maintenance, repairs. We went out to bid, and I think there was 4 bidders. These were the lowest responsible bidder. The issue with the last report was it really wasn't clear how the contract was bid, because we just had 3 identical items in there that said $75,000 per year. So I will share with you now, you have some historical costs that are in there that show what we were doing. Scott's PPE had done in those years a not to exceed amount, and they were basically losing money every year based on their costs. So what we did, we put out the RFP. We gave them a spreadsheet with all the repairs we would like to see done with an estimate. And this went to all 4 vendors with an estimate of the number of repairs each year and asked for them to give us the prices. So once they submitted that, and that was on, if you're even interested, on page 253 of your packet. It's not very interesting, but that was what they submitted to us that resulted in one being awarded the bid. The total cost for that, based on what we anticipated, was $55,163. We know we generally go over, they have a not to exceed amount in their contract of $75,000 each year for the first 3 years. That's why we have that showing there as the potential fiscal impact. We know we want to exceed that. And then there is for the 2 optional years, it allows for some inflation on the pricing. The pricing is fixed for the first 3 years. And then there's 2 years with some optional inflators in the sectors. With that, we've been happy with this vendor. Again, they were the lowest responsible bidder. We'll entertain any questions.
Chuck?
I couldn't quite figure out what's the Intertech portion of this whole thing? It's at the end of the whole packet here.
Page, Joe.
Oh, I'm looking at page I don't know, it follows page
Oh, wait, page
294. I guess it's page 295. Yeah, 295.
It was the test verification and conformity.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's,
Oh, in their contract or in their proposal?
I just don't know what it is. Is this part of the price or I just couldn't figure out.
How they come look
it's
over
right
here.
here, it's basically Wednesday.
295, it's written right here. Chief.
Yeah, he's like, I
Oh,
think
yeah.
that, yeah.
I'm just, yeah, I'm reading it, it's apparently a requirement for anyone that works on turnouts, that they have to be certified as being compliant with NFPA 1851. So that is basically the attestation for this company that Scott PPE is certified and qualified to work on our turnouts.
I
I
think
don't know if that answered your question.
It kind of goes hand in hand with the.
Okay, well, I just couldn't, I thought this, when I first saw this, I thought this was the competitor.
No.
And-
No.
So it's a certification so that, you know, we're very sensitive about protective equipment, and the national standard requires that any vendors that work on it be certified. So that's what that is, that's a cost of this service.
So what was the bid, for what was the second highest bid?
I don't know.
You know, I'm sorry, when I read this thing, here they're doubling their price effectively. And it seems like the whole district personnel just is in love with this company and they're so wonderful that we can just forget about looking at this as a competitive matter. And so when they priced out each of their services, did we base the lowest price on how many services one company thought it would need versus another company thought we would need? Or did they base it on the price of services, of the services themselves?
What they based it on is we made a list of all the services we expected to need. That's what's on page 253.
Hang on, let me catch up with you.
Okay.
253.
Yeah.
And did everybody get the same number?
Yeah. So what the responsibility was of each vendor that was bidding on the contract was to fill in their contractor's cost per service. And then the other third column is just math. It's just formulaic, so.
Okay, so everybody got, I thought, I didn't have anything to compare this to. I thought, like, for the first one, the bar tack, that this company said 226, but maybe the other company said 421.
That was our input was that first column. And the thing, so that everybody was on a level playing field and they were bidding against the exact same services. And then they priced out what their cost was for that. So I don't know specifically whether or not, I'm sure vendors had a variety of different costs for these items, but the overall price that you see on the last page on 257, 55,962 was the lowest overall. So,
Yeah.
yes, we are pleased with their service. If we weren't, we wouldn't be looking to allow them to bid again. And they also happen to be the lowest responsible bidder out of.
Okay, let me just come back to the word responsible. Were they the lowest of the bidders, or was there some determination of?
Yeah, nobody was excluded. Sorry, I just used that as a kind of term of art. So,
Okay.
lowest bidder and all four bidders were responsible.
Because I'm asking the question because in one case we did, not this case, but later on, in terms of the vote, we took
Right.
not the
We did
lowest.
not take the lowest
Yeah, and so-
responsible, and I'll explain the reason behind that.
Let me just say, I think, I'm not questioning your judgment on this. I think the report could be written better, and I think it would have been helpful to tell us what the other prices were, so that we just had some basis for making a judgment on that.
We'll do that, we'll make sure we do that.
Any other comments? Robert, Bob? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution authorizing.
Oh, I'm sorry. I do have one more, just a real quick question. I noticed that one of the other, if I'm not mistaken, is this company in Florida or is that another company, another competitor that was in Florida? Well, maybe that's something maybe I'm mixed up on it. But where do they take these things? And does the distance from our location affect how quickly they can be replaced?
I know there's requirements in there that they have to be able to service a certain number of turnouts within a certain amount of time, so.
Like
They're-
service means getting it back
Right.
on our premises.
Yeah. That said, I don't know specifically where they're located, but I know they're located in close enough proximity to comply with the terms of the contract.
And how, we have two sets of turnouts for people? Do the turnouts belong to an individual? So if somebody got both of them dirty, what happens?
That would be a challenge, anyone.
We have spare turnouts, who's hung up on her.
I see. Okay, thank you. I did.
Preferably that they be better than.
So the distance from us is not material in terms of a decision here. Okay, I'm sorry, I just.
No,
That's fine. All reasonable questions.
Okay.
I move that we approve the resolution.
Before you make a motion, I have a question, please, just to clarify the motion. I think if I'm reading correctly, you're actually looking for authority to approve not a 3-year contract as is stated in the report, but 3 years plus the 2-year options? Or are you intending to come back to the board for authority for the 2 option years?
The first.
Right, so I think the proper motion then would be authorize to enter the contract for 3 years, plus authorize the fire chief to exercise the options if he thinks it's in the best interest of the
For an
district.
additional 2 years.
Nice catch, thank you.
Okay. So, is there a motion to?
I move that we approve a resolution authorizing the fire chief to execute the 3-year contract with the 2 additional optional years, 29, 30, 20, 30, 31, for a total amount not to exceed $400,000 to Scott Stevie.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Roll
Director Jones seconded the motion?
Yes.
Uh,
Moved by Director Bloom, seconded by Director Jones.
Thank you. Director Bernstein,
Aye.
Director Bloom,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Solano. Director, oh, and President Crowley.
Aye,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Motion carries unanimously.
thank you. Moving on to item 9, which is to approve a resolution authorizing fire chief to purchase an airboat from Patriot Airboat in an amount not to exceed $166,000. So just to get the discussion started, is there a motion to move this forward?
I move that we approve a resolution authorizing the chief to purchase an airboat from Patriot Airboat in an amount not to exceed $166,000.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, moved by Director Bloom, seconded by Director Jones, now open it up for discussion. Director Swan, sorry. And I'll open it up for discussion. Sorry, Robert. Chuck?
Well, I have some questions. I just like to understand, on these airboats, the company like Patriot and American, are they, do they just make the frame or do they make the engine also?
So, when we did the request for proposal, we requested a specific motor or equivalent. So we requested a LT4 from Marine Power, and the reason we did that was because that is the current motor that's in our current boat. So there's several different motor manufacturers and several different prop manufacturers, several different everything. So it's a total custom boat. They're basically building a chassis and assembling the drivetrain in the boat itself.
Well, okay, so that I was wondering how many, the commonality of spare parts and things like that. The fact that it's the same manufacturer of the motor, does that mean that by and large it will use the same parts?
Yes, sir. So Marine Power and Pleasurecraft Marine, they both use a base General Motors trade engine. And obviously General Motors does not build their motors to be on the water. So these different types of manufacturers will take the General Motors trade engine and then make it possibly put on the water. So they have to make the wiring harness waterproof. They have to put different exhaust manifolds on it, and just general that type of nature. I think the spark arrestor on the intake has to be different than on a regular car, those types of things.
And in terms of the chassis, I know we're talking about the same manufacturer here, but are the parts, I don't even know if there are separate parts, or is that an issue, having spare parts for the chassis?
Not necessarily, because when the chassis goes bad, the boat normally sinks, which is what we experienced 3 years ago. I would say the chassis is not necessarily an issue. The exception to that is what we experienced 3 years ago was a very narrow hull, the draft on the boat, and it was fairly top heavy, and that led to the boat capsizing 3 years ago. So what we did with this Patriot airboats, what they do is they offer a board or a beam on the boat. The typical beam on the boat is standard from port to starboard. However, on the Patriot airboats, they add, it's normally like a V. So the Patriot's airboats are more flat down and across, so it adds additional 6 to 7 inches of surface area under the boat. And that was one of the reasons to go with Patriot airboats 2 years ago. American Airboats said they'd be willing to basically copy Patriot's hull design, but that, if you're asking, how are they different? Every manufacturer has a different hull design in general. So Patriot, Diamondback, Panther, American, all the hulls are slightly different, but they're similar.
Part of the problem with the boat that's sunk, as I understand, is that we modified the design, or we contributed to design, making it too top heavy and so forth. Did we have anything to do with the design of this boat?
Yeah, so if you were to look at the request for proposal and the specs that our committee put together, they're nearly identical to the specs that we put out 2 years ago when we purchased the last Patriot airboat. And the reason we put those specs out in that manner was because of our experiences with the boat that capsized, with it being too top heavy. So originally, when we requested that to buy the replacement boat for the boat that we sank, we asked for 2, and the fire chief said, "I'll give you 1 this year and 1 next year, providing the spec works out good for the first year." So we didn't want to be in a position where we were going to have a failure point. So,
and what I understood, it was one of the reasons my initial reaction was sort of hesitation about this, to have 2 boats roughly the same age. It seemed to me, if we're looking for a spare boat, that we would use the older boat as the spare, and we probably would do that here too, but 2 years is really not a significant age.
So the one boat that we are using for a reserve, I think, is 21, if not 22 years old. And that boat, the hull itself, 5 years ago, it's aluminum, and it's welded aluminum, and aluminum is a brittle metal. It can only bend so many times. And all of the welds that weld the hull together were cracked. So we had our mechanics grind down all the welds and then re-weld all those welds, so then the boat would be serviceable. And now 5 years later, all those same welds are cracking again, because aluminum, we use aluminum because it doesn't rust, but it's not steel, so it's not flexible, it's not malleable. It's just how it works. And you also want a lighter material for what the airboat does and how the airboat operates. You wouldn't want a steel boat or whatever. So
if we could have our druthers, I mean, ideally, how much difference in age would we want in these boats?
So if you, our amortization plan is from between 5 and 15 years for district vehicles. I imagine that we would be able to get a full 15 years out of both of these vehicles in the course of our operations. I will say that with our fire engines, we have 6 fire engines that are identical. We have 2 ladder trucks that are nearly identical. And we try to keep our apparatus as close together as possible as far as training goes. For instance, because the airboat that we bought last year, or a year and a half, 2 years ago, and took possession of last year, was significantly different from the airboat that we currently use in reserve. We couldn't just put that rig or that airboat into actual operation until all of our airboat operators have gone through appropriate number of hours of training. And that meant that the airboat sat for 2 to 3 months while we were cycling everyone through in order to effectively get that training done. By having airboats that are identical or near as identical as possible, we're not going to have that problem. It's going to be a seamless operation change from one to the other.
Would we ever take both of them at the same time somewhere?
I know in the past we have had issues where because it's a specialized piece of equipment and we are the only airboat in town, basically Fremont Fire purchased an airboat very similar to the boat that we sank, and they've had similar issues with it, and it's not in service from what I understand. So that means that we effectively have the only airboat that's definitely on the south end of the bay, maybe even the entirety of the bay. I think the Parks and Recs department operate an airboat, but they don't operate the way we do. We have had incidents where we have had our airboat break down or high center out in the field, and our members have to stay there for 5-6 hours or even overnight to wait to be rescued, one, or wait for the tide to come in, two. So when we have a second airboat and something occurs, we can send a second airboat out to get our crew, if that makes sense.
But let's say, would we ever deploy them like down in Southern California together or anything?
It's a specialized piece of equipment. I believe the only time we've ever sent the airboat out on a like a OES water rescue type deployment was at the Marysville floods. That was very early on in our swift water rescue program, and that was before there was a standardized John boat rigid hull setup. So the way that NIMS works and the California Swiftwater Rescue Program works, when they call us out, they're asking for a specific piece of equipment. And what they're asking for is they're basically Zodiac boats. Indemar makes a very similar boat, but it's a inflatable boat, an IRB, inflatable raft boat, I think is what the IRB stands for.
Rigid inflatable.
Rigid, yeah. So,
rigid hull with an inflatable tubes around it.
Yeah, so with that being said, we would not send that out there unless, for instance, if one of our agencies that are on our team for some reason had some sort of a need, they could special request to the fire chief and ask the fire chief for the use of the airboat. But I would be hard pressed to think of an area that we would use the airboat in, not on the bay.
And for local things now, does normal dispatch the boat, or do we do that internally?
The dispatch, it's been clunky over the years. However, it's getting better. When people are dialing 911 on the bay, the cell towers don't necessarily work like the cell towers while you're on 101, 280, 92, 84. So oftentimes a person dialing 911 might be closer to our area and it will end up in Alameda County or Santa Clara County. We do have a policy within the Bay rescue community that whenever we send one boat out, we send a second. So our problem that we have is, although River City's sending a second boat out, or San Jose sending a second boat out, or Fremont sending a second boat out, they're not sending an airboat. So like I said, when our boat gets stranded in the mud for whatever reason, our firefighters are there until the tide comes in or until another boat comes to effectively rescue.
Chief, do we get reimbursed at all for that?
If for some reason OES requested us and we actually sent it somewhere, which is unlikely, there'd be reimbursement involved, but not for our normal responses in the Bay Area. There's no reimbursement.
And there's no money from the ambulance
No.
contract.
Okay, Rob?
Yeah. How many operational airports do we have, Chief?
We have, I'll say 1.5 right now. The second airboat is working, and there are, because the boat is 20 years old, the fuel injection system was malfunctioning. And because the fuel injection system was 25 years old, that was on that 21-year-old boat, no one made parts for it. So we made the determination that in order to keep that boat running, we took the fuel injectors off and put a carburetor on, which leads us to another problem that we had with our original boat, the Panther, which is motors diesel when you shut them off, which is why we need fuel injection. So right now, the mechanical division is working on a fuel shutoff that will turn off with the ignition to make sure that the prop will stop spinning when we want it to.
Wow.
So yes, it works.
With failing welds though.
With
So
failing, yes, it
really not safe.
Yeah, not only did it have failing welds, however, there was also an incident probably 7 years ago where the boat hit a rock while in the water, and it bent the inside of the hull by the aft, and it wasn't 5, 6, 7 years ago when it happened. It wasn't an issue. Now 7 years later, it's leaking from that area. It's taking water on. The pump actually keeps up with the water leak. However,
It's not the
I
design
imagine
purpose.
that's not gonna last forever.
Well, the idea is that the pump's an emergency feature, not a keep it afloat feature.
A follow-up, how many firefighters do we have trained to
So-
actually operate it?
That's not exactly a straightforward answer. We have boat drivers and boat swimmers. So I think in the boat driver range, yes, I think the drivers were above 20. I think we're close pushing 30 drivers, but I think our swimmers are in the 60 range.
Oh, 60?
Yeah, so it's a different, we don't allow our firefighters to get on the boat unless they pass the annual swim test.
Okay, and my final one, is it all gone through the apparatus committee, they've approved?
Yeah, so we formulated a committee, the committee decided what their specifications were, we put the RFP out, and we followed this process to make the RFP work.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
My only comment is the district needs to have 2 serviceable boats, and having one that is unsafe and leaking is not adequate for the second boat. It's a pretty simple decision in my mind.
Put that thing up on the shelf.
Robert? Oh,
No, I'm just commenting, I'm ready to vote on it, so we just need to add it. If we can have 3, let's get 3, but you know, it's. And one leaking, it's not working.
Okay, Chuck?
Yeah, let me say, I'm hesitant to be spending so much money, I'm gonna vote for it, but I'm hesitant to be spending so much money for something that we provide service to others and we get nothing back for it. We don't get reciprocity of anything, we don't get money, and it doesn't seem fair to our taxpayers that we're doing this. But we can't have a boat, like you're talking about, maybe you've probably seen those television commercials where they put a little piece of tape on the boat and then they can take it out and it works just fine. They put the tape and put 2 halves of the boat together and it works great. But anyway, the boat sounds horrible and a little bit too dangerous. Just raise one other question. Do the drivers, is that part of the preparation to be somebody, a driver of an engine or truck?
No, it's a completely different.
And are they paid extra to drive that?
Negative.
I see.
Okay. There are no more comments or questions. We have a motion and a second, so let's do a roll call, please.
Director Bernstein,
Aye.
Director Bloom,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Solano,
Aye.
President Crowley.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. So item 10. Thanks, John.
I'll see this up in 2.
Keep the noise down when you start that car.
Okay, so the item is to adopt by resolution
Turn it on.
annual
Wow.
appropriation limit of $187,968,792 for fiscal year 26-27. Howard.
Very, very quickly, this is something the board had eyes on. At the last board meeting, we were required to keep that notice for 15 days, is that right? So it's an annual requirement we have, it's not, I think beyond that, we've already, looked at it, we'll just.
So before we start the discussion, we kick it off with your motion to adopt the annual appropriation limit. You're going to be $7,968,792.
Also,
Moved by Director Solana, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Director Jones. I'll open up for questions or comments. Any questions? Any public comment? Okay, no questions or comments, so let's just do a roll call, please.
Director Bernstein,
Aye.
Director Bloom,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Solano.
Aye.
President Crowley.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. So our last regular agenda item is item 11, and it's to adopt by resolution the district's fund balance reserve policy. Elaine or?
I will start it, and it should be pretty easy. This is something that went before the finance committee, and they approved it for the recommendation of the board, approved it. Very small minor changes. The policy was last changed in June of 2024. Let me share with you the very minor changes that were recommended, but they're not really substantive.
So good evening, everyone. So this is actually part of our periodic review of our financial policy. So at least on an annual basis, we review this and specifically the fund balance policy. So if there are no changes, we keep it as is, and then we will bring it to the board. But if there are changes, then we bring it to the board for adoption or for the changes. So there are basically 3 minor changes for this policy. The first one is on page 361 of the packet. So on page 361 on the budgetary deficit reserve category. So what we did here is, basically to align it with the GASB 54 requirement. So GASB 54 actually clearly defines when the funds can be used. So vague terms currently right now, such as anticipated shortfall or for emergency needs, are not necessarily allowed. So there has to be a formal trigger event. So in order for us to be compliant with GASB 54 requirements, we just put another sentence there that it's been our unwritten practice ever since. So this is just really formalizing, memorializing, what the practice is. Although we haven't used it in the past, but it's an unwritten, again, rule, for us in finance. So we put something like a threshold, like if it goes, our budget actually goes below, our anticipated shortfall is about 5%, then we can use the budget items. So that's the first thing. The second change is on page 363 of the packet. So I think under the assigned category.
Yeah, wait for that.
That's classical music for our guys.
Yeah. About $30 to stay after this.
Yeah, but it's in reverse.
Oh my God.
Don't peel out now. Over here. Yeah.
Okay.
So the second one is for pension stabilization. So the change that we did here is, I think, we just clarified or at least set an actual target level for this specific reserve, because in the past, or at least in the last revision of the policy, we only actually set the annual contribution amount every year. So this actually sets a specific target amount. So the target amount that we set is 5% of the total accrued liability. So just for a little bit of context, accrued liability is the estimated present value of the pension benefits that current employees and retirees have already earned for a specific period. And again, the most recent one is as of June 2024. So essentially, this is the amount of money that we need to pay for the benefits. And then unfunded accrued liability is basically just the difference between the accrued liability and then the current market value of the assets. So we actually just set a specific target level for this. The third and the final change is for compensated absences in the same. I think it's on the same page as well. So this one, we just clarified that compensatory time off is also included as part of this reserve. And those are the three minor changes for the funds.
Comments or questions? Yeah.
I have a question about just, I don't disagree with anything, but on page 361, when you talk about the deficit, I just wondered if we have to define that further, because does that include the operating budget deficit? Does that include those other kinds of like the capital fund that's part of it and so forth? Because money's moved back and forth between these different accounts.
So essentially for budgetary deficit, technically we're really just referring to the operating budget on this one, because the capital budget is already funded by the reserves. So anything that we transfer on a yearly basis is just extra. And if we have like extra, funds to actually spend during the year, then we don't need to touch the reserves. But we have a specific reserve already for that. But that deficit really for this one, we're just referring for operating budget. For special revenue fund, we don't necessarily include that because those are all reimbursable. Those are grant funded. So we are getting reimbursed for any expenses that we incur. So your point, Director Bernstein, I think this in particular, I think the general consensus, I think for budgetary deficit is just for operating.
5% of what we just approved 10 minutes ago.
I just wondered if we need another word like budget, operating budget deficit or something of that sort, just to be absolutely clear. Maybe there's never going to be there's never going to be an issue where money's going to be transferred to get rid of the deficit or something of that sort.
Yes, right now I am not foreseeing that would happen. But I do get the point, Director Bernstein. Maybe when we have another set of review, we'll probably consider that and take it into consideration, to essentially clarify that it's just our.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, no more questions or comments. We'll take a roll call.
And I'm sorry, could you repeat who motioned in second?
I think there's been.
I don't think we had
I
that.
think Director Solano
make a motion.
and I think Director Jones seconded it.
Yeah.
Solano, Jones.
Yes, Director Solano made the motion and Director Jones seconded.
Okay, Director Bernstein,
Aye.
Director Bloom,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Solano, and President Crowley.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. So now we're on to the proposed agenda items. Chief, you want to just talk about any of the
This,
kind of been addressed in some of the.
really what this is an opportunity for the person that put it on or requested to be on the agenda in the first case. It's Director Solano's and look at Director Jones's thing. Share with the board what it is they're interested in answering or addressing via this and having the board decide whether we should put it on a future agenda. So,
Okay.
and I will just ask for some questions, honest questions to get clarification, so if it gets agendized, I know what it is, that each board member is looking for an answer for.
Okay, so number 12 is the Bay Rescue Operations. Yeah, I was just gonna read that. Agency jurisdiction including aircraft.
Okay, well, it was on a week, chief, where you got Palo Alto wanting to go on the Ottaway situation, which is good since that's their airport. And, you know, secondly, you know, I'd be interested in, you know, what, county Office of Emergency Services dispatch has a protocol. If there is a situation that's south of the Dunbar Bridge, jurisdiction for us, as Chief Monitor said, you know, relative to, we're the only ones that have an airboat, swampy area. Does our battalion chief take control of the situation there? Or is it, you know, another one of those auto HOA situations where a regular city battalion chief could take over? Something like that. So, you know, is there anything that the county dispatch has relative to a bird? That's what I would be interested.
Barbara, do you want to add comment? Oh, is this one, were you interested in deciding?
You talk about item 12?
Yeah.
That's the type of dispatch protocol.
The reason I mentioned your name, Director Jones, is there was some tie-in with the Palo Alto Airport on
Right.
it, and I listened back, wasn't quite sure how to describe what the topic was, so it's just a reminder that you had some comments on it related to the airport. If you had something you wanted,
Sure.
that'd be sort of.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me. The airport is, along with the city of Palo Alto, is undergoing, currently doing a study of the airport in terms of its general operation, in terms of the type of planes that they're proposing to land there. They want to go from, currently they have, I think, diesel fuel or regular gasoline fuel plane, and they want to switch them to something less toxic. And so the question came up, would who have responsibility if there's a crash that take place in the meeting that I was in? And it all depends on where, if it's in the city of East Palo Alto versus the city of Palo Alto, because the marshland is right there, and Palo Alto have part of that as whether it's in their jurisdiction. So there was an unclear answer as to who would have the responsibility if a plane crashed like it did several years ago, about 18 years ago. The fire district responded to that particular crash. And so the question is, if it happened further out into the bay in the Palo Alto section or geographical locations, is that still a responsibility of the fire district for Menlo Park, or is that solely rest with Palo Alto? Just who would have that level of responsibility? And I guess the reimbursement of costs and stuff associated with it as well.
No, I didn't have anything to add. It just sounds like this has been narrowed down to a reasonable discussion, which is around what is in the county dispatch system and what is the emergency plan for the Bay Area, for the Bay waters, the Bay waters in our area relative to Palo Alto Airport. A little different than that.
Could this have some kind of SOP protocol, the county communications, unless that's in.
Yeah,
We
both
don't
of
know,
those.
but the whole thing is, if we wanted to have a staff, report, they would find that information out.
Well, Yeah, both of those things, again, as I listened to those are pretty easily answered as just bullet points in the chief report, and so we can have a discussion about it. Not hard, it doesn't require a staff report like you. It might,
That's fine.
yeah, I'm vote for both of those, and it might cause some additional conversation and another agendized topic for future discussion for ASAP. I can give it a try at next month's meeting to address both. Are those issues in that? Does that work? Okay.
Chuck,
We'll see
do you
where
have
that
any
goes.
comments?
That's fine.
Okay, I have a comment though.
Sure.
Mark, so, as we move forward with possibly having mutual aid with Palo Alto, I think it's gonna be really important to understand who's responsible for what. I mean, I know it's probably a little premature, but I'm just thinking down the line.
Right.
Or down, counting the timeline. Like, I mean, I think all of these questions are really good, especially if you have a mutual aid agreement with them.
And we can have that discussion, kind of a, call it educational discussion with the board on what happens in automatic and mutual aid. Who has responsibility, who's the incident commander,
It's
all
cross,
those
it's
things.
cross jurisdiction.
Right.
Cross county.
In general, if you're the only engine on the scene, even if you're not in your own jurisdiction, you're the.
You're the same. Okay,
But.
okay,
we have more
so,
to come.
Point of question,
sure.
and this is for the chief, I know we was talking, have been talking earlier about some mutual aid, I think with Palo Alto.
Alonzo Fire.
Would this that in any way interface with that idea, that notion of in terms of being able to develop a relationship or a contract with them? Maybe if I'm off target in
No,
terms of what it
no.
was intentionally,
So
the
he's,
intent.
so you asking, what is it or where are we?
No, I'm asking if will this tie into
That's what I'm
to this
asking.
particular,
With the airport,
yeah.
I'll address that too, on what that might look like. But yes, if we create an automatic aid agreement, it absolutely could affect, right now, if there's a crash at airport, they request us via mutually. We have an automatic aid agreement
Yeah.
where, we could respond, we might respond a couple engines to an aircraft down at the airport. They'll be the initial engines there, we will be second, third, whatever it happens to be, it just depends on
Well,
how
it
big it goes.
depends.
But yes, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, it does open up the door for more robust responses into each other's areas.
Yeah, I just have a suggestion, chief, it's not earth shattering, but typically the chief's report is usually a series of short things where you're updating the board. Seems to me if you're gonna have a discussion of something substantive that could last for 15 to 30 minutes, that perhaps that should be a separate item here, just so we can proceed with the agenda that's kind of a normalized agenda. So I was gonna say, it could still be a chief's report.
Right.
But not part of just an updating kind of thing.
And usually what I'll do is if it's gonna involve some discussion like these items, I'll agendize it in such a way that the public knows we're gonna actually have a discussion on the topic. And it will be like we did with, trying to remember what the conversation was that we had last month, but it was almost.
But I think that was part of the
30, 40
chief's,
minutes.
that was part of the chief's report, I think,
It was.
and therefore it wasn't highlighted on the agenda.
Yeah, I had called that one out last month on I think the mutual aid conversation as a separate bullet point under chief's report, so that the public was aware. But, yeah, my intent is, because if we want to create an agenda item, we go back to the board actually voting to put it on the agenda. I would, but I'm kind of trying to see if there's a shortcut. Let's take a look at it next month and see how it works out, and see if it's properly noticed, so.
I mean, there are things you put on the agenda, like the budget or whatever, we don't take a vote on that. I think the
Right.
chief can put whatever he wants to on the.
Truth, yes.
So.
Yeah.
I just thought you ought to highlight something
will.
that could be of importance to a number of people.
Yeah, I mean, I think the important thing is just to know that we're pretty concerned about this item, and so, I mean, as Gary said, it's been narrowed. So, if you wanna look at July and do something in the chief's report and the short
I'll give it.
explanation, and then we can always elaborate and put it on as a regular agenda item. But I do think we need to keep track of it as we progress with Palo Alto, or progress or not progress. I don't know, sounds like we're progressing. But this is probably gonna be something that has to be discussed. Okay, item 13, feasibility study on alternative shift models, 8 to 12 hours for line personnel. Who is that?
That was my.
Chuck, okay.
Yeah, this was an issue. I think there's a number of reasons to take a look at this. If you look at the fire report, and this month is typical, the morning hours, early morning hours, have only about 1/3 to 1/4 of the number of calls that the ones in the daytime have. And I think our firefighters pay a huge penalty for having their sleep interrupted. I think it affects the cost for the district, but I think it also affects our ability to recruit. And I think we could recruit, for example, more women if there were day shifts on this. And I think it's worth thinking about having some alternative things where we didn't have a full, whatever it is, 7 crews or 8 crews available all night long. I think it might save money, it would be better service, and I think it would be a kind of easier to recruit for our, so that's why I think we should at least discuss it or have a conversation about it.
You looking for a feasibility study as a stated
No.
here, or you're looking for a discussion?
Just a discussion, no, I don't mean a study.
Okay.
And let me say, a study might follow if we
Yeah.
thought it was a good idea.
Cause I think having a discussion where the chief, can kind of lay out some of the pros and cons and some of the research that's been done on the topic.
Well, it's one of the things the chief did down before, and you had some engines that were just 12-hour engines, right?
We had daytime engines to cover administrative gaps that were created from training, so yeah.
So I just think it's worth understanding it better. Can we change the word as suggested,
Should be
discussion?
Okay.
Discussion, not discussion of
Discussion.
versus feasibility study,
Right.
which implies.
Some work.
And money.
Yeah, exactly.
So what do y'all wanna do?
Just did it.
No, so we need to vote, and do we wanna put this on a future agenda item?
That's
You wanna make a motion?
Oh, I'd like to make a motion that we put that topic as a discussion item on a future agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. We need a move by Director Bernstein, second by Director Jones. Just do a roll call.
Director Bernstein,
Aye.
Director Bloom,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Solano,
Aye.
and President Crowley.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. 14, presentation on impact fees from Ridgeline Group.
That's me, I can't.
Okay.
I'm gonna put us, I had attended the Fire Districts Association of California, and I came up with a booth that spoke about impact fees that special districts could impose. And I thought with all these high density housing projects that are coming up and a lot under the current legislation, cities and counties cannot impose these special fees. But it says nothing about special districts.
Is that why you were there?
They were trying to, they're
So
trying
are
to
they
go.
a vendor?
They were a vendor. So, I'd like to have him come in and do a presentation for us, since we've got, how many, Chief? 7 or 8 different projects. And it looks like the cities have to finance these things, and they can't do the fees the way they usually do. Sometimes they're waived because there are high density projects. So I'd like him to come in with this group and do a presentation for us. And, it's gonna be a burden to us as a fire district if they build all these different projects. So I have the information, Chief,
So
from him, if we vote on it.
well, I have a
Okay.
question. Is there a group that would be a non-vendor that would do this? I mean, cause they're
What do you
probably
mean?
trying to look for business, right? Is it?
Well,
I'm just asking if there's like
I
a
don't-
group that, I don't know.
he was the only one that I saw.
Is there a cost to have them come present to us?
Oh,
Or is that
that
a
was
business
only-
development
He
expense
said
on this
that,
side?
he said that he would come and do a presentation, that's why I can bring it in front of the board.
Here's
So for
He's located in Sacramento.
That's what I'm asking.
Is it
For
for
free.
Yeah, for
free?
free.
Oh, yeah, no fee.
I mean, I think it makes
If
sense.
he charges a fee,
So can I ask basic questions? So this particular person from Ridgeline Group, are they a developer or are they a consultant or contractor or what are
They are a vendor, maybe so, yeah, it's a good
But what are they
question,
vendor
yeah.
to do
What are they
what?
selling?
they? What do they do what?
What are they selling?
yeah, well, they do a multitude of finance stuff also. But one of their specialties are impact fees.
Oh, so they're not a developer, it sounds like they're a strategy.
Financial analysis. And the purpose of that would be to educate us on impact fees?
Educate us on impact fees
And
and
whether we as a special district.
we as a
can-
special district want to impose impact fees on a lot of these different projects that are coming up that are not fire district.
The question is whether we have the authority.
Well,
That's what he's
he's
saying.
saying that we do in some cases, and that's why I wanted him to, I wanted the board to see if they wanted him to come in and do a presentation and to see what he has to.
I mean, I'm
Question.
very.
Is from a legal perspective.
I don't work for
Steve-
him, so I don't.
Steve, is there any legal concerns about us having a chosen vendor to come present to the board?
First of all, the short answer is no, but I'm not sure you might have chosen, we
Well-
haven't chosen them.
No,
There's many
but
people
we're
besides
inviting
Suzanne.
them to a meeting without inviting others that are in similar businesses to the meeting.
No problem.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's what I'm
I
asking.
have a caveat here.
Okay, Robert.
I would love to hear what this man has to say, but his group has to say, but I know that if he's coming down to talk about being in favor of doing such a, for us to do it, on that thing, I need for him to come quoting which part of the law or which part of the ordinance from the state that requires us or gives us authority to do that, if any at all. And if there isn't any, but just, hey, you can push for this, but they can push for things that the cities, depending on what the city really want to go for, be involved in that to collect fees and enhance their housing project or housing area. On the same token, we need to have the other side of the coin as well. But I think for me, it's more like if it's written somewhere in state statute or, city statute that can happen, then, I'm okay with that as a person. But other than that, I don't need no snake oils and so.
I have a suggestion, Chuck, I'll go after you.
Okay, I was just gonna say, we've discussed this, I'm supporting it, but we discussed this in the past a little bit, and at one point, I don't remember the exact terminology, but the only people that can impose impact fees are agencies that govern land use and need, their approval is needed for something to go forward. But there's a way to get around that if we're considered governing land use. So I think it would be helpful to understand how we could be considered in that category.
There are a number of statutory authorizations for what generally are considered impact fees. There is a fire mitigation impact fee statute that I believe the fire district would have authorization to assess, different from what you're describing. But it's a very narrow, I'm not a municipal finance expert, but I think it would be very narrowly focused on a very specific capital project. Like we're building a station here, therefore we need to have a mitigation fee here to, there are gonna be some very legal constraints, not only on the scope of the fee, but also to make sure that the way you're doing it doesn't become considered a tax, which is subject to a whole slew of constitutional protection. So I believe, while you're correct, I think there is a narrow category of fire mitigation impact fees that are probably within this district's authority, but under very limited circumstances.
one of the big problems we've run into when we've done this is the city, like Menlo Park, has authority to impose impact fees. However, they only want all the money they can possibly get for themselves, and they're never willing to share any of it. But this affects the length of ladders we need, how many ladder trucks we need. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that could come into it, so I think it would really be worth finding out.
And I think this company, Ridgeline, I recall seeing them at a CSDA conference, and I think they have a stock PowerPoint deck that they go around doing this for, so I'm sure they'll come.
So here's what I mean, I think, first of all, thanks for bringing this up, Rob, I think it's a really good idea for us to look at this. But I'm wondering if CSDA itself has some knowledge about some of this.
I'm sure they do, because I'm sure this company's presentations, I mean, CSDA archives all of the presentations from their meetings.
He made the representation that he had other special districts that were clients.
No, I know,
So-
but what I'm saying is
so I mean, you know,
CSDA,
so they're-
if CSDA has someone who can come, then that might be more neutral, I guess. And I can ask
I
about.
haven't heard from
I
consultants like Rob.
don't think there's a problem with hearing from this company.
Okay.
If and when you decide to go down this path, which is not at all certain in my view, you will undoubtedly need a financial advisor to guide you through this process, and you should, under your policies, procure the services of that financial advisor through a competitive RFP process. I don't imagine that what Ridgeline says in a public meeting is going to give them some secret inside unfair advantage to an open and competitive process that you will no doubt.
That's kind of what I was asking.
Yeah,
If the board decides they'd like to hear, it sounds like you do, I could spend some time with Steve and or Nicole to kind of suss out, make sure those narrow instances when we can apply impact fees actually apply to our situations, so we don't have somebody come down and spend an hour of our time for something we can't do.
but what I'm saying is
I can
CSDA
check
may
with
also
CSDA.
be a resource
I can
on
check
top
with
of
them
this.
also.
So,
Well, they can come in next, or they can come in the next
I
meeting.
mean, but,
You know, I
okay,
mean,
so then the
So can
question
we put a time
is,
limit on how much time we're gonna spend on there? I mean, this is them doing a pitch about, you should look at impact fees for the following
Right.
reasons, we think they're allowed under this, this is the kind of things you can do. But I don't think we should allow it to be a 2-hour agenda.
no, I know, what I'm saying
That's
is,
what I'm
but
suggesting.
so what Mark is saying is this suss out the issues, and I'm even saying, look at CSDA may have some papers on this already.
Can we do this?
Yeah, please, Robert.
Allow Mark to do his thing first.
Yeah.
Bring us information and then we can take it from there.
Okay, so don't put this on a future agenda until after we hear from the judge.
Well, that's putting it on the agenda.
Yeah, unless you wanna hear
Oh.
from,
Yeah, we
I-
can carry this forward as an item, as a proposed agenda item. I can report back to you next month what I find out. I'll contact CSDA and this group and Steve and Nicole
Well,
and figure out if there's actually some opportunities for us.
so what about putting it on a future agenda, like in August after you, or however long it takes for you to do some of this research? Cause I don't wanna drop this because
I
the
think you just,
development,
I think Mark just mentioned that, you said next month, right?
I mean, you can.
No, but I want us to commit to
You
putting
still
it as.
leave it on the list.
You can add it, you can put it on the list, and then also if I find out information that suggests that we can't do what we thought we might be able to do, we can withdraw that and not. So,
Okay, that's fine.
So you're
I
gonna
just
leave it
see-
as, I think what I just heard is, we're gonna leave it on there as a proposed agenda item. The chief is going to have material to help us make a decision on the proposed agenda item at the next meeting.
To put on a future, actually, as a
we
discussion
can do it
item.
that way, where you guys can vote to put it on there, and then also, if after my, fact finding, it's a dead end and it's not to be productive. we can just put it-
Okay, let's do the initial research, and then this will remain on the future, the future agenda. But then the other two items, 12 and 13, will go on a future
Yes.
agenda. And so 14 will stay on the future agenda item area, agenda item. And then until further, information. Okay, okay, I can talk to you after this.
Okay.
Okay, item 15, which is new code, is one of the items.
I have been.
Any, Rob?
Yeah, there's been, it's not, I'm assuming our agency, but there's a lot of other public safety agencies, county, city, special districts that have what you know, the workman's comp insurance processing. I'd like to put on the, or for a future agenda, to review our workman's comp process and see if it can be streamlined in a way. Some employees been like 90, 180 days, or they're referred for testing, and then after the test, they get more testing, and the system, like Consolidated Fire, I was told, has an actual checklist where they go through certain types of injuries, and they're referred to for different types of testing. So let's say if they need an MRI, they don't have to wait for an MRI. So I don't know what our process is with our district, but I know Consolidated Fire has had this issue for a while, and they're trying to consolidate their workers' comp stuff. So I'd like to put it as an agenda item to try to, one, see if we have the issue, and two, how can, if we have that, to streamline it in a way where it's effective for our employees.
There's not the consolidation.
No, so that you don't have them strung out for 90 days, 180 days, because a lot of them live out of the area. And I don't know what the light duty situation is, but if they're out of the area, they've got to come in. And it becomes a multitude of problems. Like I said, Consolidated Fire has been fighting this supposedly, and they're going through some test program where they're trying to consolidate the time that they have to be out on a workers' comp injury to work through the medical group. So, I don't know if we even have.
Would it make more sense to have the HR committee look at this first and do a review of the workers' comp process?
That would be
I
fine.
think that's a good
That'd be
idea.
fine. HR committee.
Yeah.
There you
Let's
go.
put it. I can have it, yeah.
Who did I?
Or-
All right, well, they're, yeah. Let's
Okay,
have,
we have
let's
some-
look at it first.
We have some really good information to share with you on proactive things we've done to prevent sickness
Okay.
with the HR.
Okay, so we'll move that to the HR and then see what results from that.
Can I ask a quick question, Rob? I'm not sure, is the problem that the agency is spending too much money on workers' comp, or that employees are not getting attention quickly enough?
The employees feel like the system is taking too long for them to go through the process.
Process, a workers' comp plan.
The actual claims and then the follow-up. And like I said, I don't know if it's I don't think our agency's involved, but some of the other agencies are. I know many other public safety agencies are like that. And it's a good, and the chief said he's got a solution to some of these, or
We'll go to the HR committee and everyone's okay.
move it to HR, have the HR committee.
I'm good.
I don't have.
Okay, so we're done with that. So let me just review items 12, 13, and 14. So basically, Mark, just for your edification, for item 12, which is the day rescue operations, the agency jurisdiction, you're gonna put it in the chief's report first, and then we'll go from there, and then we'll go into his
Yes,
staff report.
I'm gonna address two items. One is, does the county dispatch have some type of protocol to use? And then the second part is really related to the Palo Alto Airport, and how is this new IOA agreement, and when it happens, going to affect
Yeah.
that? Oh, who has responsibility for trash and reimbursement costs?
Yeah.
But those will be covered.
Okay, and then 13 is gonna be on the future agenda, which is to discuss the alternative shift model. And then the impact fees, that's you doing preliminary research, and then we'll go from there. Okay, and then workers' comp, streamlining the workers' comp, go to HR. Okay, is everyone in agreement? Okay, so going to reports and requests, committee reports, item 16, EPRAC.
I'm not on-
EPRAC didn't meet.
Not on the.
We didn't be.
We didn't, okay.
Oh,
Facility.
Don't look it up. So I'm not a-
So facility,
We did not.
Okay. HR did not meet, finance.
By the way, on facilities, we're kind of waiting for the next round on the station one to require input from the committee. And there just hasn't, we've been in the hurry up and wait mode. So.
Okay, and HR did not meet, but we will next month, finance.
You're all invited to the party. Hopefully.
I know, okay. Okay, liaison reports, Atherton, Gary.
I did not attend their meetings tomorrow. I'll be attending. But for a couple months.
Okay, East Palo Alto,
I didn't attend, well, I did attend the city council meeting, but I was kind of online.
okay.
And,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, Menlo Park, actually, it's been in the news, but I watched the meeting where there were, I think, 3 developers who made proposals for the downtown parking lots. I don't know if I have read anything about that, but, I think that, so, I mean, there are pros and cons, but pretty much all of them seem to need or require money from the city, so people are just like, okay, well, that's gonna be kind of expensive, right?
Quite a bit.
So the next step right now is for the city to do a financial analysis on the 3 proposals, and I guess take it back to the council. So I guess we'll wait and see what happens there, but they're moving forward with the initiative as well, because I think the initiative for the 2 Oak Grove parking lots, the downtown parking lots will be on the November ballot. So we'll keep an eye on that. San Mateo, County San Mateo. Bravo,
I don't have anything.
okay. The hospital, JPA,
Yes, we met and passed the budget. And
is that the main?
looks like things are going forward. Thank you.
And nothing on the creek, reports of
Can I
direction.
just say something about the creek though?
Sure, yeah,
Cause I ride my bike over there every Saturday, so they closed off the Newell Street Bridge now. And,
from the Menlo Park side.
no, well, it's not Menlo Park, it's East Palo
I
Alto
mean,
to Palo
Palo
Alto.
Alto side,
No, both, well,
oh, for the
It's
whole
just the
bridge,
whole
Whole
bridge.
okay.
The whole bridge is now closed and, yeah, the street there, they've got all these weird detour signs which are meaningless. You could still walk across, you could still bike across. But there's no more traffic and the bridge is gonna come down, so they stopped the bridge, though they were gonna tear it down immediately. But apparently there's some bird nests in there. And so they're waiting until the eggs hatch before they tear it down.
Okay.
The environment.
Can they can't move the eggs?
No,
It's probably in a mud nest.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mud nest.
oh my god, okay, thanks, Chuck, for the.
I just got mentioned because I think it could affect, traffic circulation and things like that.
Okay, well, director's reports, Chuck, do you have anything to report?
I did not.
Robert?
I think the only thing we have in this month, this area is our last day for the youth, emergency preparedness program. It's gonna be 8 months, and so this is our last, gathering with the youth for this year. And so now we're waiting for the city to fund this for next year, so we'll hopefully we can do it all over again. So, if you ever around Faith Missionary Baptist Church around 12 o'clock on Saturday, don't come on by, I'll be cooking some hamburgers and hot dogs and maybe some chili, I don't know.
Okay, I'm gonna come by.
Jones,
Yeah.
I have nothing.
I got a few things.
Okay, I'm here.
I attended the Stop Menlo Housing, on May 27th.
Oh, is that the one in Fremont?
Yeah, yeah. That was interesting. And then, I also attended the downtown proposal on the housing on June 10th. So I kind of did both. I'm a multi-faceted type informational person. And on June 11th, I had my Fire District Association California board meeting, since I sit on the executive board. That's all I have for. Thank you.
Okay, so I have a few things to report, for the president's report. One is that I attended the East Palo Alto Community Coffee. Did you get that property?
No, they don't understand.
Okay, well, Mark got it, I know. Well, anyway, it was a productive time, just like community members, the city manager, the police chief, the mayor, council member Diamond, and some nonprofits, including, the Boys and Girls Club, Kaiser Permanente Foundation. So it was a really good, and there were many others as well, a very good, showing. And I had a really great talk with Melvin Gates, the city manager, and the mayor, Webster Lincoln. And we were just discussing the residential fires, which kind of led to that question. And actually, Melvin Gates said that there were actually more brush fires this year so far. I don't know, I mean, he's probably keeping track. But what resulted from that is they're interested in having a joint meeting with the fire board and their city council, because they're dealing with the residential structure fires, they're dealing with double parking, like in the narrow streets, so that it'd be hard for our fire engines to get through, and also the traffic calming devices that we probably want to be in there to give some input, or at least hear what they have to say. So I don't know, Chief, if Melvin has contacted you, but if everyone's for that, then I think they're the ones who they want to have this.
Does it be spelled out?
Yeah. I think there's just so much going on there, but Robert, I want to get your thoughts. I haven't had a chance to even call you and talk to you about this. But anyway, that's what Melvin and Webster both wanted.
Does it need to be a joint meeting, or can they put it on their agenda and
They
some of us attending their
they
meeting?
didn't want partial, because they also want to, because I guess there are developers there, and they want to signal that, we're all unified in this. We haven't had a joint meeting with them, I think, in a couple of years.
Since I've been up.
Okay, well, then
3.5
3 years, yes.
I,
But Robert, I'm not here.
I've been like, what, Robert, 4 years easy? We had a joint meeting.
something like that.
Okay,
Yeah.
I would structure, if you're gonna be with them, I really structure, very carefully, that they be an item in terms of what really the fire district, can provide, which is partnering with fire service kind of related activity. Having developers there can kind of.
well, no, if they come in as audience, the members of the public, I don't know, they expect that could happen, I have no idea.
Yeah, I would say structured.
Yeah, well, so if you want to be involved with some of that, that'd be great, because I bragged about your team cert.
They know.
I know, but
Yeah.
So Lisa Gaucher has a new chief of staff, Chris Hunter, who used to be Don Forsley's
Got the
chief of staff.
money going out.
So this is part of my president's report. And
Okay.
anyway, what I'm saying is that I bragged about your program too, and so you might get a call from Supervisor Gaucher to get
I know about,
commendation.
Measure A, she got money for Measure A for, disaster preparedness, so we'll be giving that out lately.
Okay, well, anyway, so that's the thing about possibly having a joint council meeting with the fire board, a your suggestion, yeah. I mean, is everyone okay with that? They're thankfully.
It's great.
I think we had agreed a long time ago, we're periodically anybody
Just be those,
So,
okay.
we haven't done one.
Okay, so if you wanna contact Melvin, that would be great. Okay, and then, I participated, as Mark said, in the interview for the board clerk, and, with that was with the chief and Francine. And we hired a really great person, and we're looking forward to having her start. Let's see, so I was gone last month, but I think, Mark, you may have touched on the FEMA press conference thing that regarding Kevin Mullins bipartisan advocacy for increased funds, and that was really good. And I know it's a month past, but we had a really good turnout, so we want to give our guys special thanks we got today. And then I attended the CSEA San Mateo County chapter meeting, and really there's nothing going on. I gave a LAFCO update, and basically we were gonna look at South County areas, but now I think they're gonna look at coastside, so we're kind of off the hook for an MSR for probably another year or so. So that's all I've got. Chuck?
Could I wanted to tie into something you were saying and then make a request to the chief. Chief, we're just now entering the window of fireworks. And East Palo Alto is kind of the center of that for a lot of us. And I'm just gonna mention that things have gotten better in terms of the duration of that period. More recently, it's been starting around May 1, and it's just horrendous. It's been delayed. We're still getting those major bomb type explosions, but then there's only one or maybe two of them. But this is something that some of these, they're shooting Roman candles off into the creek and stuff that's a major fire danger. And if you could do anything, do that. I don't know if I'm saying this to you, Virginia. I don't know if anybody mentioned fireworks to you.
No, I did not, and I almost brought it up, but it didn't even get brought up.
Okay, because
So,
I just worry one of these days the fire is gonna rip down through that apartment building over near University Avenue. And it's gonna be a real disaster.
I have one more thing. I attended the San Mateo County Fair. I don't want to say too much more because you might talk about this briefly, but UC has a Master Gardeners program, and my neighbor actually went to the Master Gardeners program. And so she was saying that they actually provide like public education for firewise yards or, plants and that kind of thing. So, and when I went to their display, actually this woman from Atherton was there promoting this whole thing. And so I talked to the chief about possibly having the Master Gardener, so someone can come and do a public education night for one night about plants and firewise yards. And my neighbor was interested, the woman from Atherton was interested, and I'm kind of, brought it up as a possible idea at the East Palo Alto Community Coffee, and they thought that they were interested in, it'd be like one night, and all the details would be, I'll leave those up to the chief and Heather and Deep and all that, but anyway, I just wanted to put that up, that that's a possibility, and if anyone wants to give suggestions, please do. But I just thought it was a very interesting idea because fire season's coming up, like you said, Chuck, and people are interested in, fire or new yards, defensible space. They do firewise, like not a lecture, but a presentation.
One of the communities around here, I can't remember which one, is, maybe it's,
It's
They're already
Woodside
doing
Fire Protection.
or it's, no,
They have a program.
Palo Alto, the hills, Palo Alto Hills or something, is requiring defensible space and the
Yeah.
whole thing.
Woodside is too, because anyway, so that's good or beyond. Anyway, that's it for my report. If there is nothing else, then we can adjourn the meeting at 9:02. Thank you.
Very
Thank you. Bye, Gina. That's great.
Thank you, everyone.